Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Ramblings of an Old Fart podcast. Hello, my name is Craig Warren. I'm 71 years old. I've been married almost 53 years. Father of 9 and grandpa to a bunch. I'm sort of retired. I retired at 65 to provide full-time care for my wife, who's had some pretty serious health issues. But lately, I realized I needed to do something to keep my mind active. So why not a podcast? I have a lot of experience. I've done a lot of things in my 50-plus years in the workforce. I have a lot of opinions. So what more would I need? I should mention that I've never been a member of a political party, and I don't intend to do so. My podcasts do not come from a political place, just a factual and common sense place. Okay, so what I want to talk today, I've titled this New Zealand, No Save Act. And I want to discuss this because this has been a big deal where we've been discussing the SAVE Act here in the U.S. And I know we've all been there somewhere where we've had to go through and dig in the file cabinet or inbox somewhere to find a birth certificate or something so we can get a passport, or even to apply for new jobs in a lot of cases. If you have any security clearances, anything, I've had to provide my birth certificate many times. I don't really see this as a real impediment for people. This is something that they should have already done. Our birth certificates, marriage license, those are very, very important documents. I know people, they have a copy of their insurance policy, but they don't have a marriage license. I don't understand that. Thomas Paine, you probably remember him from history, but he's been a man that literally booked the road on common sense, right? And once he warned us that those who want the blessings of freedom have to endure the fatigue of supporting it. Today we're being told that asking for a birth certificate is too much fatigue. But Paine knew that what we get too cheap, we value too little. If we make citizenship a walk-in service, we lose the very thing that gives our republic value. That's my point here. Well, let's go through some things here. This isn't an issue just here for us in the U.S. So just imagine for a minute, you move to a beautiful island out in the South Pacific there. You're there for a year or two. You're not sure exactly how long, but you don't really know anything about the country. You just know that the property's cheap. The view is awesome. It's the most beautiful oceans probably in the whole world. Okay, so you might move again in a few years anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but you enjoy it. The only thing, after you've been there a few months, you're handed a ballot and you get to help elect the new prime minister. That isn't a what if in today's world. That's the way it is in New Zealand, and it's causing all kinds of problems, and I want to get in and show you that. So we're looking at what happens when residency replaces loyalty, and why the world is currently hitting a breaking point on the idea of world citizenship, where it doesn't really matter. You're a citizen of the world, it doesn't matter about the country. So let's take a closer look at New Zealand. New Zealand has been making waves lately, and it's kind of a scary trend. That's my whole point here, because non-citizens can vote after being in the country for a year, just a resident. Okay, it's become a magnet basically for passive wealth. You got wealthy people move in, everything's great, the property's been cheap, all that kind of stuff. But wealthy individuals move in. They buy up the housing. They vote for policies that protect their property values. They aren't starting businesses, creating products, creating jobs, those kind of things. They're just parking their money there and enjoying the beautiful weather and the beautiful scenery. The problem is, while they're buying up all the property, that has created a housing market that's hotter than a firecracker. A lot like what we're seeing here. The problem is, the native-born New Zealanders, the people with skin in the game, can no longer afford to live there. So they're fleeing to Australia and other places for better paying jobs and more reasonable real estate, apartments, buying homes, whatever. So here's the issue. when a country's own people are replaced by high wealth transients that they don't still have a nation, do they? If their citizens are moving out and these other people aren't citizens, they're just taking advantage of the beautiful weather. It's more like a gated community with a flag. As the ACT Party in New Zealand is arguing this election cycle, citizenship must mean something. See, they're finding that their country's being destroyed because of this non-citizen being able to vote. In the last 12 months, roughly 66,000 New Zealand citizens have left the country. About 60% of them went to Australia. A country without its own people is just a real estate portfolio. That's the way I look at it, kind of. But we have another issue here as well. It's created what you'd call a brain drain. Through 2024 through 25, New Zealand saw record numbers of its own citizens leaving. In that year, it was over 70,000. Many were young professionals or tradespeople who just got priced out of the country. They couldn't afford to stay alive there anymore. So when you start losing the professionals and the tradespeople, the medical profession, nurses, whatever like that, it creates a serious problem before too long, doesn't it? Okay, so this isn't just new or just in New Zealand. And we want to jump over into Europe. In Ireland specifically to start, in Ireland they use what they call a ladder system. You know, of course, they're all part of the EU, and so that's really kind of messed things up over there, in my opinion. But if you're a German living in Dublin, you can vote for the local city council or mayor or whatever they have there in their local elections. You can even vote in the EU Parliament. Doesn't matter where you're living at the time. But you can't vote in the Irish National Parliament. I have a quote here from The American Crisis, #1. That was out from 1776. It says, "What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value." So anyway, on paper, all of this stuff sounds good. You know, you can move different countries in the EU and you can still participate in the vote. The problem, if you look at it in reality, the reality on the ground right there in Ireland, Ireland's seeing its most significant social unrest in decades. Because even without the national vote, the sheer volume of non-citizen stakeholders has shifted the economy so fast that the Irish youth are being priced out. The critics in the Irish Parliament are calling it a betrayal. They argue that the government is focused on global interests while the farmers and tradesmen and the people who built the country are being forced off their land. It's a clash of customs versus capital, right? So in Ireland, the people they're being told that the Irish economy is booming. But here's the math that they don't mention. 35,000 Irish citizens packed their bags last year alone. That's a 187% increase over the year before. People fleeing to Australia and other places around the world. When 3 out of 5 of your young people under age 25 say they see no future in their own country. You don't have an economy, you have an evacuation. Also, according to recent polls, 8 out of 10 young people in Ireland express fear for their future. And 2/3 of those believe they would have a better quality of life almost anywhere else in the world. That's not a good sign, right? Ireland has one of the highest rates of tertiary education, or college education as we would say here in the U.S. Critics in the Irish Parliament are pointing out the fact that Irish taxpayers are essentially paying the education for their youth only to have those skills exported to Australia or the U.S. or somewhere else because the local economy is distorted so much, causing high housing costs that the people there just can't afford. It sounds like something like we're experiencing here, are we not? We're seeing tremendous increases in housing costs. Okay, so moving on here, let's look at Canada, for instance. They're having some issues as well. For years, Canada was the poster child for this open door residency thing. Come one, come all, please, kind of a thing. But as of the late in 2025 and early 2026, the wheels are coming off of that bus. Housing and utilities spiked so high that the government had to do a massive U-turn, basically. They slashed the immigration targets by hundreds of thousands. They realized that you can't build a stable society on people who are just passing through, right? If the infrastructure, the actual skin in the game part of this, can't support them, even most globalist leaders eventually realize that a country needs an anchor. Canada kind of serves as a warning label here. They tried to be the world's hotel, if you will, and the bill came due in 2024. When your non-permanent population hits, 7, 8, 9%, and your kids can't afford a $3,000 a month studio apartment to go off to college, the world citizen dream becomes a national nightmare. They've had to ban foreign buyers of real estate, something that we are considering here, by the way, because we're having the same issues. And they've also slashed student visas by half just to keep the lights on, more or less. So, this brings us to the SAVE Act here in the United States. In the Senate right now, the debate's a firestorm. One side says it's too hard to get a birth certificate. The other side, if you don't have one, you don't really have an investment in the country's future. Douglas MacArthur was once quoted as saying, "No man is entitled to the blessings of freedom unless he's vigilant in its preservation." So I think we owe it to ourselves to get this under control. It's been destructive in every major civilization in recorded history. This deal with non-citizens, uncontrolled immigration. You can't have a real high percent of the population who don't really care. They're not citizens. They have no loyalty. They just come there to take what they can get. If things get really bad, they'll just move on to somewhere else. And that's kind of where we're headed right now. So in my way of looking at this is about loyalty. A citizen stays when things get tough, right? A global stakeholder moves their money to the next country with a better tax rate or better jobs. If we allow people with no connection to our customs and our long-term survival to make the rules, we aren't a republic anymore. We're kind of like Canada. We're trying to be the world's hotel. So the question I have, the question we should all have, is simple. Is your right to vote, is your vote a right, is what I should say, that you earn through loyalty, or is it just a service that we provide for anybody who wants to show up? So my question, when I started looking into this, it had been bothering me for a while. Is anybody pushing back on this? Well, of course, some of them are. In the United Kingdom, since the mid-part of 2024 and continuing till the present, they have been removing EU citizens from their local voter rolls. Now, they're kind of in this pissing match, if you will. If the country where they came from has some reciprocity agreement that our citizens can vote there and theirs can vote here, I still think that's foolishness. Local elections should be by the local citizens. I don't care if you're living here, because you might be here today and you might be gone tomorrow. Why would I want you voting on policies and laws for my local community when you're probably not even going to be there? France has kind of been going the other way here recently. I'm not sure I understand that at all when they can see all the problem the other European countries are having. However, it's facing massive opposition from groups who argue almost exactly as I've been. You know, when you don't require citizenship, it's easy to come, easy to take what you want, and then easy to leave. It acts as a pull factor. It brings people in. It brings people in who have no intention of assimilating. They don't want to become French or they don't want to become Irish. They just want to come and take what they can get. And that's the truth of it. If you look it up, there are terms for that, right? They have people that are just citizens there that come for the money. They have a specific term. I don't remember it offhand. And this has happened all through history. Right? This isn't a new thing. It's a very destructive thing. I can promise you that. Just do your history on like the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Han Dynasty. Check your history books. You'll find out what I'm saying is true. New Zealand, of course, they've been having this problem, but they are changing some things, or at least trying to. As New Zealand prepares for its general election this year, the 12-month rule is a major talking point. Parties like their ACT Party are campaigning on the idea that citizenship should mean something, arguing that the current system allows people who are just passing through to dictate the country's long-term economic path. That's where the problem comes in. They're voting for what's good for them, like parking their money. To them, it's cheap real estate, but it soon prices out their own citizens. Abraham Lincoln once said, "Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history." And that's what I've been harping on through this whole thing. History is going to catch up to us and bite us in the butt here really soon if we're not careful. When a government says everyone is a stakeholder, they forget that someone has to pay for the infrastructure, the pipes, the wires, all of the stuff, right? In Ireland, that stakeholder model has led to electricity bills that are 70-80% higher than they were 4 years ago. In Canada, it led to a population trap where the North is literally begging for billions just to keep the heat on. If the people voting or just working there don't have skin in the game for the next 20 years, because of the infrastructure debt that they're having to spend right now, they'll just move on, leaving the bill for the citizens who have nowhere else to go. Theodore Roosevelt once said, "There is no room in this country for hyphenated Americanism. Our allegiance must be purely to the United States. We must unsparingly condemn any man who holds any other allegiance." And I think he was absolutely right about that. That's where we have an issue here. A republic stands if we have citizens, loyal citizens, who are not afraid to stand up. I mentioned this in one of my other podcasts recently. We no longer say the Pledge of Allegiance. We used to do it every day when I was in school. I know some people have an issue with the under God part. It doesn't matter, leave that out. When you say that Pledge of Allegiance, you're saying it to the flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, right? So if you don't say the under God part, it doesn't change that. It's still showing that you are a U.S. citizen and you're proud of it and you're willing to defend it. That's my thought. I'm going to leave you with that today. But this is something to think about. This SAVE Act is something that will do exactly what they say. It will save our nation, or at least possibly save it. But this uncontrolled immigration thing, I just don't understand. I know we get people all the time saying that these non-citizens are not voting, but I'm not sure that's true. That may be true in national elections because they're handled a little bit differently. But I'm pretty sure it's happening in some of the local elections, and that's what's always happened. You can see in these other countries it's been happening. So I think we have to do something to stop that, protect ourselves. The republic will fall if we don't. That's my point. That's my concern. Anyway, I think that I'll leave that with you today. I want to thank you for joining me. I hope you found it entertaining, educational, and thought-provoking. Join me next time, won't you? I'm Craig Warren, and this has been the Ramblings of an Old Fart podcast. God bless you and keep you till next time.